So it's mid-September now and the garden is definitely done. We're here at the acreage today. We're gonna clean everything up. Both of us are pretty tired and kind of done with the garden, but yet at the same time, because this year's garden was so terrible, we're both really excited about next year's garden, and we've already started making plans for like enriching the soil health, and there's a greenhouse in the works. So I guess today I just wanted to show you sort of how we're cleaning up this really giant garden, because in a way it's a bit different than you clean up a city garden. And then at the end, the hermit and I are going to just chat a little bit about what some of those plans are and maybe how you can apply them to your own situation, especially if you're in an acreage garden and you also are struggling with soil that's less than desirable. With this,
well, it's just sat for 10 years without being started, so we'll see if I can get it going.
all right. So I guess maybe let's talk about what our plan is for next year, since this garden was such a disappointment. And maybe
It wasn't a disappointment. We learned a lot.
that's true.
We learned that the soil needs a lot of help, that it's still capable of producing stuff, but it needs a lot of help.
Yeah, and that we have a vole or something, mole.
Something digging underneath, stealing our crops.
It's really annoying.
To be ready for next year, we gotta do a bit more work this year. Yet have to knock down everything, get a big tarp, and let everything just settle down under the tarp, kill off all the weeds. And next year, we're going to only focus on a smaller portion and plant cover crops on the rest of the garden. So probably break it up into thirds, plant on 1/3, cover crop 2/3, and then rotate, and do that for a few years to build up the soil, get some organic matter back in the soil.
Yeah.
Also need to bring in a lot more compost. Lots more compost.
I think if any of you out there are starting a garden from scratch on an acreage, like, you're just gonna vastly underestimate the amount of compost that you will need, and I know we did.
Very true. Well, it just depends on your context. This is a garden patch that had been gardened for a long time, and no fertilizer and compost had been brought onto it, and things have been tried to be grown in there. Oh, I say it again.
I think that like various people had tried to garden in it, but nobody had really done any soil amendments or anything.
Yeah. So next year we'll definitely be bringing more compost, amend the soil, even do a soil. We better do a soil test.
Yeah. I know I personally have been really lazy about doing soil tests because we live in Saskatchewan and just our soil in general is decent. Like, you could not amend it and probably get something. But after this year, I really have to eat my words, and I think we need one.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to bring in some chickens next year. We'll see if that happens, but that'll be great to start making our own good quality compost.
Another thing I think people should learn from us this year too is if you don't live on the property where you are gardening, you really have to think about water.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Inconsistent watering probably is one of the one of the things that caused this garden not to work out well.
Mm-hmm.
So if we didn't water things enough, so the crops we planted weren't able to grow fast enough to cover out the weeds, and then the weeds took over. So
Yeah.
next year we'll have to focus on some sort of irrigation system too.
Yeah.
Something with a timer, just so it waters even when we're not here. So that has to happen.
Yeah. I think my new rule with what I tell people when they want to start a garden is only choose as much garden as you can afford to build irrigation for and put compost on
Yeah,
and do
that's a
soil
good
amendments
point.
on,
That's
right?
a good point.
Because if you can't afford to do the irrigation or the amendments, then what's the point? Because your stuff just isn't going to produce as nicely.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then I've got some work to do on building a greenhouse next year, so that'll be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
12 feet wide by 40 feet long, should hold a good amount of food.
Yeah, and then I think we'll have a lot better luck with like tomatoes and cucumbers, our non-existent melons. Like we'll just do way better with that greenhouse. Yeah. So shall we say goodbye to the people?
Goodbye.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to know more about Zone 3 gardening, northern gardening, cold climate gardening, I hope you'll like and subscribe and hit that notification button. We'll see you next time. Bye.